In our leading story, the search is still on for a mine worker trapped underground at Sibanye-Stillwater's mine Ikamva shaft in Western Area. 4 other miners have been confirmed dead. The miners got trapped after apparently entering an abandoned work area yesterday. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Mineral Resources has expressed regret over the tragedy. It wants tougher action to be taken against the mine. At least 19 miners have died at Sibanye-Stillwater mines this year alone.
At this time, as we had indicated earlier, we had located the 4th miner, who is unfortunately deceased. The specialized proto teams are underground trying to obviously pull him out of the abandoned ore pass where he was seen. We unfortunately are still in search for the 5th employee. The employees who went into this area are permanent employees. The facts around how and why they went into an abandoned area are yet to be established. The DMR is currently on site, and obviously they will lead the investigation, and at the right time we will be able to have all the facts that led to them getting into this area.
You'll remember on the 20th of March, AMCO marched nationally. We were at Union Building, we were at Polokwane, we were at Velcom, Free State, we were in Durban Metro. 4 provinces, all members of AMCO were not working, putting the memorandum before the DMR. Amongst other issues were the issues of safety. So the only thing that you'll hear from the government, investors' confidence in the expense of the mine workers. The conditions are not conducive for the mine workers. Workers are killed every day. You can have your inquiry in terms of Department of Mineral and Mine Health and Safety, but at the end of the day, there is no mine bosses who will be found on the wrong side of the law.
Earlier, we spoke to mining expert David van Wyk on the levels of safety in mining.
Well, I think that in the first instance, we are concerned about the fact that there is no trauma counselling that we can observe from the Benchmarks Foundation for the families of mine workers who lose their lives in mine accidents. Usually the mines pay for the funeral costs and for the transport costs of these workers back to the Eastern Cape or wherever they come from. And then there are calculations for compensation based on the Mine Health and Safety Act, and of course the workers' pensions and so on are paid out. But usually it's very little money. It is not the kind of resources that a family can survive on. And very often mining companies then offer jobs to family members of those who were deceased.
Well, Sibanye has pleaded for cooperation and partnership with unions in finding solutions to curb these continuing deaths at their mine.
Well, the statement by AMCO that we are putting investors first at the expense of our workers is correct. AMCO, as one of our key stakeholders, was actually participant to a safety summit that we had about 3 weeks ago, where we were actually trying to engage with all the relevant stakeholders, including the DMR, to try to get to the bottom of some of the challenges that we are facing at our operations. And in fact, post that, we had a commitment that we'd obviously had follow-up sessions with them to try to map a way forward. So what I can assure you is we've got safety systems, processes and protocols in place as governed by the Mine Health and Safety Act. Like any other mining operation, it's just unfortunate that we've had challenges with our safety this year. The loss of lives are regrettable, and we once again send our condolences to the families, friends and colleagues of those who lost their lives. But we can assure you that the health and well-being of our employees remains a priority.
More public hearings on land will take place beginning next Monday. This time they'll be hearing inputs on land restitution, which is the return of land forcefully taken under forced circumstances through discriminatory laws in the past. The Portfolio Committee on Rural Development and Land Reform will be embarking on the public hearings to assess public understanding of the Restitution of Land Rights Amendment Bill. The bill seeks to amend the Restitution Act of 1994 in terms of redress to those who were dispossessed of their land rights under the colonial and apartheid governments. Now, this bill seeks to amend the cut-off date for lodgement of land claims, to regulate matters related to judges of the Land Claims Court, and to create certain offences. Meanwhile, lobby group Afriforum has submitted a memorandum in Parliament today objecting to the proposed expropriation of land without compensation. The group is declaring the process to amend Section 25 of the Constitution illegal. Afriforum says the decision on expropriation of land without compensation was based on a deceiving state audit. The group also says they've identified several procedural irregularities that may impact public hearings due to start at the end of this month. They claim venues and times for the public hearings are still not known, and they say that those that are known are located where the ruling party has the most support.
We handed over our memorandum to the Parliamentary Review Committee today. It's particularly about expropriation without compensation, and in it we highlight quite a few things about our concerns with this process. So we have highlighted that we believe that the notion is based on a flawed or a very cherry-picked version of South African history. But we've also pointed out that there are potential negative economic consequences, and we've also expressed that we have very serious concerns about the process that is currently being followed to consult with the public. The same ANC that tells us that we need to trust them, that they will do this in a way that would be appropriate, is the same ANC that told us that we can trust them, that they would deal with public health in a proper way, that they would root out corruption, that they would deal with all these other issues. So we don't think that they really have a track record of telling members of the public that we should trust them to do this properly. Other than that, what we are pointing out is that there are potential economic risks to this policy, and we don't see them acting in any way that can provide us with the assurance that those risks would be mitigated. Other than that, we are concerned about the way the process is being executed, where there's not proper consultation. 2 different lists were published by the review committee, 2 contradicting lists about when and where these meetings would take place. We don't know which one is the correct one.
We are now joined in studio by Sizwe Mapindani, the president of the Black-Centric Forum. And over the phone line, we are joined by Ernst Roots, Afriforum's deputy CEO. Our telephone lines are open, so if you want to join the conversation, do give us a call. Our number is 011-542-1046. That's 011-542-1046. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. And a very good evening to you, Mr. Roots, for joining us over the phone line. Let's start, of course, with you representing Afriforum. Just talk us through the memorandum that Afriforum handed over to Parliament and some of the grievances, the strong points that you raised in that memorandum.
Well, thank you very much. There were actually 3 different letters that we have handed over to Parliament over the last 3 days. In the first, we have expressed our concerns about the process that is currently being followed regarding public consultations with regard to expropriation without compensation, and what we regard as a process that appears to be structured in such a way as to ensure the outcome of the process would be that which the ANC wants the outcome to be. The second letter we sent to Parliament was to formally request for our organisation to make oral submissions to Parliament regarding this issue, and the third memorandum was the one we presented today, in which we have stated our concerns with expropriation without compensation. So what we have said is, while we regard the process to be flawed, and flawed to such an extent that it might even render the entire process as invalid, we reserve our rights in that sense, but we would still participate by putting our concerns on the table.
And have you actually gotten any response yet from Parliament? I mean, you've mentioned 3 letters. Any response to either of the letters as yet?
Yes. Well, we sent the first 2 via email, and we have received confirmation of receipt thereof. And today we were in Parliament, so we presented the letter that we sent through email. We presented them per hand as well, together with our memorandum, in which we state our concerns with expropriation without compensation, and also together with a report about patterns of land ownership in South Africa. So it was received per hand, and they signed confirmation of receipt. But obviously it's too early for them to have responded comprehensively to that.
Well, Ernst, please do stay with us on the phone line as we just bring the conversation to studio. Now, Sizwe, just talk to us about the Black-Centric Forum's thoughts on the idea of land expropriation without compensation.
Okay. First, let's address the Afriforum's appeal to Parliament or whatsoever submission. First, who is Afriforum in an African country? a racist, post-colonial, delinquent kind of organization, a white nationalist, full of white arrogance, promoting white supremacy. They don't have a cultural, a sociological, a geographical, and a historical ground to actually mention the word land and legal in the same rite of passage. How can they dare at this point to say they're against the process of land repossession? I find it ridiculous, and also serves as proof that South African democracy, for the fact that his predecessors, Kali Creel's predecessors, who have partnered with this butt-licking Cyril Ramaphosa when they drafted the South African Constitution, which was founded in white culture because it's a Roman Dutch law. So I disagree, or the Black-centric forum movement disagrees with this so-called land expropriation, because on legal basis, if you say land expropriation, you're legitimizing land theft, land robbery, and land kidnapping. And land expropriation is not even relevant in South Africa, because when you say land expropriation, in other words, we're actually endorsing the fact that whites control, own the land. And it's their private property, and we are taking that land for public benefit, for which is factually not true. The land was dispossessed. In fact, it was not even stolen, because when you steal where nobody sees you. The land was robbed, taken on bloodbath. Therefore, it is not land expropriation. It is land repossession. Black people taking their land back from the kidnapper. So, our ground on this is the fact that although I have a problem with this Afriforum submission, however, we believe that if people have been raped for 342 years, have been incarcerated for 342 years, have been abused, dehumanized, indoctrinated, or oppressed, the first thing first that you have to claim shouldn't be land. Are you telling me that for 342 years, all those loopholes that have been created as a result of land, all the minerals that have been stolen, the golds, the diamonds, the manganese, all of it should just go into this? All we want is a piece of land? No, we want reparations. We believe that reparations should come first.
Well, Susie, let me just get a caller to actually come in here before I allow Mr. Roots to actually reply to the allegations you've made. We have Becky joining us from Newcastle. Becky, good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us. A very heated debate going on here. What are your thoughts on land expropriation without compensation?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. First of all, we must ask, who is this Afriforum? Where they come from? Who are they? Who they present? You see? Then we will see that this racist white group who know nothing about our country, they are claiming a portion of it through this constitution. You know, we need a bold leader in the ANC which is going to declare that it's either we go to poll to decide what we want as black people. Do you want a land now or later? Otherwise, this constitution does not speak with us. It only speaks with the have, not with the have not. So therefore, we cannot even go to that commission, whatever commission that have been put before us. We need a referendum to correct things in the constitution, and also again to demand a reparation from these African that who have killed us, stole our land, stole everything from us, even our culture. So we cannot have a culture if you don't have land.
Well, Becky, thank you very much for sharing your views with us. So that was Becky from Newcastle calling for a referendum as well as a reparation. And we are joined now by Zakhele from Pretoria. Good evening to you, Zakhele. Thank you for joining us this evening. What are your thoughts or contributions to this discussion?
Hello. Hello, how are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you for asking, Zakhele.
I'm fine, thank you. My comment is that I am so ashamed. The gentleman is 100% right there. I am so ashamed with us black people because We cannot be united. We cannot. We can't. We are so much divided. We are against one another. We can't be united in order to correct, to put our foot down that we need the land. We don't have to, to complicate what belongs to us. What we are going to do with it, how we are going to do it, it should be us who decide what to do. The whites came to this country, whites came to Africa. They fought amongst themselves, they killed each other amongst themselves, they decided to divide the land the way they wanted, and we became a slave in our own land. Now, I am so ashamed that the ANC leadership, the black people as a whole, we can't be together. Look at how we are. Swaziland, Lesotho, Botswana, Namibia, we are all divided. We are all divided by the same white people who claim to be Afriforum. Afriforum from where? Do we have Afriforum here? You know, I don't like to be a racist, but what they are saying here, it's so much based on the racist thing. They want to continue with this slavery thing of land issues. The gentleman is very right. But black people, they should be united. We should be stronger to face this havoc that we are faced with in our whole continent. I thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Zakela. We now are joined by Anonymous, a caller from the Western Cape. A very good evening to you, Anonymous. Thank you for joining us. Just give us your voice on this conversation.
Yes, just to correct that, I'm calling from Kuruman, not in the Western Cape.
Okay, all hail Kuruman. What do you have to say on behalf of Kuruman?
Now, on behalf of Kuruman, I'm just having a little bit of problem when we said that we're going to fight to get the land back. I'm totally against that because I can even make some reference to the neighboring in the Northern Cape, especially, where you will be able to find farms where the white man has been removed from the farms. Now they are so drought, and our forefathers used to work there, and people at the end of the day, they end up losing their jobs and everything. They are sitting now with joblesses. So if then this land will be taken away, then what's going to happen? Then it's going to really give us a hell of a problem. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Anonymous from Kuruman. Let's just cross over to Ernst Roots, who is on the phone line. Ernst, a lot of accusations made against Afriforum here. And one of the questions that came across, I think, 2 or 3 of the callers, as well as my guest in studio here, was who is Afriforum and what gives Afriforum the right to be involved in the land conversation? Just please respond to that.
Yeah, well, I don't know where you get these extremist groups. You sound like they're in a competition to imitate the world's worst, the speaking styles of the world's worst genocidal maniacs. If these people, if they keep saying that they don't want to speak with Afriforum, that's fine. Then maybe you should not have Afriforum on the show. We would like to have a factual discussion, but it's not possible to have a factual discussion who believes that raising your voice is a more appropriate method of debating than raising your argument. I've heard a whole bunch of sweeping statements and vague accusations. I haven't heard one clear fact, so I don't know what I should respond to. I don't think it's appropriate for me to respond to these sweeping statements or allegations that are just sort of thrown around in the air or generalizations. If someone can respond to any of the factual things that we've said, any of the statements that we've made, any of the statistics that we've quoted, any of the reports that we've quoted, then you can have a discussion. But I don't see the use in trying to have a constructive discussion with people who seem not to be interested in having a discussion.
Well, very true. We're going to just cross over now, Ernst, to Mike, who's calling us from PE. Mike, good evening to you. Thank you for joining us. Just to weigh in on the discussion.
Yeah, I'd like to, and what I'd like to say is what happens to the property on the land that's been put up over the years. You know, the farmhouse, all that sort of stuff, and the farm implements, the tractors and things like that. That surely the government can't take that away. That belongs to the farmer himself, and the animals. That belongs to the farmer. So if he takes all that away, I don't know where he would take it, but what on earth happens to the farmer, people that take over? They've got nothing there. Unless the government compensates the farmer for buys the cattle and all the other stuff that he spent money on.
A very good point there, Mike. Thank you for actually mentioning that. Sizo, just back to you. Ernst is talking about the sweeping statements that have been made by both you and some of the callers, that what exactly are the factual obligation, the factual opposition you have towards Afriforum. He's mentioned that, for example, public consultation process, he feels it's actually unfair that the public consultations are happening in places where the ruling party has a majority, or where the result of the process is actually being rigged to favor the ruling party. So, factually speaking, what arguments can you raise?
You see, there's a problem there. When I listen to this gentleman from Afriforum talking, it reminds me of what actually happened with CODESA. I can imagine what caused the compromises. Don't raise your voice. When you speak to the master, you must use this kind of tone. I'm raising my voice because when you talk about land, I think about the blood of black people. Wives raped in front of husbands. Young babies bombed, even others were forced to drink white urine only because they are black. You can't talk about land and now have a factual base. It is a fact that land was dispossessed from black people. And now, with regards to Afriforum's attitude in South Africa, I find it difficult for me to only focus on exactly what they said. I have to focus on their character, their behavior, in terms of their position in this country. Each time a black man speaks from a position of pain and suffering, Afriforum have actually took Malema to court for hate speech. Afriforum, again, right now, black people are talking about land return, although there is failure here and there with regards to etymology and terminology. Right now, you're talking about the unfairness of the process that the ruling party is actually embarking on. I'm the very same person who said, well, I disagree with the conceptual framework of the so-called land expropriation. But regardless of the circumstances, we can never be fair about land return to black people. There can never be a fair process whereby the same like in 1990 we have seen. Khalid Muhammad, I'm quoting. Khalid Muhammad said, and I actually used to judge the statement.
Well, let me just interrupt you there. Hold that thought about that statement. We are joined now by Tulo from Tokoza. Tulo, very good evening to you. Thank you for joining us on Afro Prime Time. Just give us your thoughts on the conversation.
Hi, thank you. Your guest, I was with him at a library. He was hosting a talk mostly about the land issue. I hope he remembers me, but I'd like to pose a question to him on which party does he think has the most viable idea to expropriate the land?
Well, thank you very much, Tulo. So the question is actually posed to you, Caesar. Which party do you think has the most viable mechanism to carry out this land expropriation?
I think all South African parties do have the EFF and also Black First, Land First. The ANC itself have already compromised their constitution written with neoliberal tendencies. But what I was making reference before you interrupted, the 1990, what happened is, with the issue of land, that time was an issue of governance. The compromises were as a result of negotiating. There was no independence in 1990. The ANC was told that they will only be given politics and economics remain in the hands of the enemy. Right now, you still need to negotiate with the enemy in the issue of land. Somebody in the comfortability of benefiting from land itself. So when it is taken back and you're negotiating with them, obviously, you will never succeed in that actual process itself. That's why you'll have groups such as Afriforum, white nationalist organization protecting land.
Well, let me just get Ernst Root's closing comments here. And Ernst, the question was actually posed by one of the callers earlier on, that what happens to the property, the animals or the crops that actually are owned or have actually been grown on the land when the land is taken away from those who currently own it?
Well, I don't know what would have to happen to that property. I think the underlying point here is that, yes, there was dispossessions in South Africa. Black people were dispossessed to make space for areas that were allocated to white people, and white people were also dispossessed by
of their land to make space for areas that were designated to black people. But we cannot make the conclusion that all black people over the entire surface of South Africa were dispossessed by all white people. And I also think that when we have a discussion like this, there's no point in us raising our voices to each other and making sweeping statements. I think we can have a constructive discussion. We are prepared to have a constructive discussion, but we are not prepared to keep attempting to have constructive discussions with people who keep screaming at us and keep making false allegations and fabrications.
Well, thank you. Susan, just your closing comments in 1 minute.
Okay, my closing comments is the fact that I would like to put a word out there to black nationalists that we should focus on reparations first. We should be self-determined as a black nation. And a message to white nationalists out there, whether or not the so-called land expropriation fails, the land of black people will be returned. If it is not taken using the legal system that was fractured through white culture, we will take it as a result of a revolution. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you to Mr. Ernst Roos, the Afriforum's Deputy CEO, as well as to Sizwe Mapindani, the Black Centric Forum President. Thank you to all of our callers and our viewers. Just do remember that the conversation does continue, so you can tweet us at Afro Worldview. And a disclaimer that the views of our guests and callers are not necessarily the views that are shared by the station. It is time now for a short break, but do stay tuned for more news and updates.